you. Thanks, Luke. That isn't actually even the bio I provided. So can I get a copy of that? Thank you. I am a brand strategist by profession. I sold my branding studio last year, but I do have another business, which is a co-working space. And this is the story that I'm going to talk to you about today. So it was back in May 2017, and Western Sydney was experiencing a cold snap a full month before winter was supposed to officially start. And when I crawled into bed, I shared with my husband how grateful I was to have a roof over our heads and a warm bed to sleep in. And this idea stuck with me all through the night. And by the morning, I had an idea that I took to my team at our co-working space the next day. And I shared with them a simple idea of asking people in our community to knit or crochet 20 by 20 centimeter squares that we would then join together into blankets that we could donate to those people who are most in need. Now, this has nothing to do with a co-working space, right? Yet it has everything to do with our brand culture, because we focus on community, connection, and creativity. And this was a good way of being able to pull all of those things together. So here's the lowdown. It takes between 35 to 48 squares to make up a blanket. And at the rate that I knit, it was going to take a long time to get a lot of blankets. So we needed to use our community to allow this to happen. I wanted to donate 5 blankets that year, which meant we needed about 200 squares, which I was thinking that's a lot of squares. So we put out to our community, to social media, that this is what we were doing. And people started dropping in squares. Not always 20 by 20 centimeters and not always squares, which was quite a challenge. But being creative, we decided we didn't want anything to go to waste. So the strange sizes, and we have had circles and we have had triangles. That's a hard thing to create, right? We decided that instead of throwing anything out, we are going to use these oddly shaped squares to then create blankets that would then be made for the dogs of homeless people. Because what we know is that homeless people will often treat their pets better than they treat themselves. So our blankets now go to the homeless, where they will get a blanket for themselves and they will get a blanket for their pet, go to domestic violence survivors, to youth in crisis, and also to cancer patients. And we partner with charity organizations in our environment who are able to get these to the right people. So we put on a bunch of sewing bees, because we wanted to get people connecting. And along with our social media, we also put just a little article in the local newspaper. And that went out on the weekend. The following Monday, the doorbell rang. And at our wrought iron gates, I saw this little old lady standing there with a huge black plastic bag filled to the brim of knitted squares. Honestly, there must have been 200 squares right there. And I was astounded, like, how was this possible? The article had only gone out on the weekend. And I asked her this. I said, this is crazy. And she shared with me that 6 months earlier, her husband had passed away, and that she found solace in knitting. And she had been knitting these squares, not knowing what they would be used for, until she read our article in the paper. And she looked at me and she said, love, you have just given my grief a purpose. And I was like, whoa, that's big. That's huge. That was way more than I was expecting. And so we had these sewing bees, and that made me sort of think, wow, hang on, this challenge could be bigger than simply blankets going to people in need. Like, this is actually helping the people who are volunteering to be part of our Think Outside the Square blanket challenge. And so when we put our sewing bees together, we started meeting the locals and we started talking to them. And this is Ruth and Emma. And Ruth and Emma are both highly immune compromised. So they find it very difficult to work. They find it difficult to socialize. And they were spending most of their days on the couch watching Netflix and eating. And it's not a very good lifestyle. And they heard about our challenge and they thought, well, Emma's like, well, I can knit. And Ruth is like, I can sew. So Emma would create the squares, Ruth would sew them into blankets. And they joined our challenge. And the feedback they gave us was that it has changed their lives because now they have purpose in their day. Now they are doing something that's of value to their community. And they have been part of our challenge every single year since. So we've been running it for 8 years. This will be our 9th year. That very first year, oh no, another story, hang on, here we go. That very first year, we donated 49 blankets. So my goal was 5. But we donated 49 because our community rallied around us and they went, this is a fantastic initiative. Now, the interesting thing about all of this is that if I had to ask people to give me $20 so that I could go down to Kmart and I could buy a whole bunch of blankets, I wouldn't get much support. But with this challenge, I'm inadvertently asking people for their time, their talent, their effort, their love, and they give it openly and abundantly, which is so incredible. This is Jo. Jo's a friend of mine, and just before COVID hit, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I knew that what she was about to go through was incredibly challenging at a time when she really needed family and friends around her. She was not allowed to have them anywhere near her, which was really difficult. Now, I knew that Jo knew how to crochet, so I suggested to her that I could drop a bag of squares over to her, and if she felt inclined, she could join them together. And if not, not a problem, I'd pick them up and I would finish off the blankets for her. 2 days after I dropped off the blanket, she gave me a call and I was like, oh, I've loaded too much on her. And she said to me, Deb, the blanket's done. Can you send me 2 more bags? And I was blown away. I was like, wow, this is a woman who's just been through chemo. This is huge, right? She later shared with me that after chemo, she felt so sick that she wanted to die. She said she just wanted to die. She wanted to crawl out of her skin. Yet she would pick up those squares and she would start to join them together, thinking, you know what? Somebody out there somewhere is going to be grateful that I'm alive. So I should be grateful too. And she said that got her through chemo. That is huge. And I'm so pleased to say she is cancer-free. She is one of our biggest supporters. She's still on the challenge and she even runs some of our sewing bees. I think this is running ahead of itself, isn't it? So what we know to be true is that the University of Wollongong did a study in 2020 and on the wellness, the effects of wellness and crocheting, and to say, well, what kind of effect does crocheting or does knitting have on wellness? And what we found out was that, wow, I wonder why this is going crazy. I'm going to have to talk really fast. 89.5% of people said that they felt calmer when they were crocheting. 82% said that they felt happier, and 74.7% said that they actually feel more useful. And the study showed that the repetitive nature of crocheting and knitting helps calm the nerves. It lowers cortisol, it de-stresses you, it helps depression, anxiety, chronic pain. There are so many good things that come from using your hands and creating something. And this is the effects that we're finding has come through from this TOTS blanket challenge that we have. So it really is incredible. This is Jason. Now, we met Jason during just after COVID. He is an Army veteran. And Jason's wife was actually the one who found out about our challenge and encouraged him to join us. You see, Jason suffers from chronic PTSD, and he finds that crocheting actually calms him down. It helps alleviate so much of the stress that he goes through on an everyday basis. Added to that, he was taught how to crochet by his nan when he was a little boy. And so it brings back feelings of nostalgia for him that he finds are really, really calming. So we're finding that so many people that were getting involved in our challenge were not just little old ladies. These were everyday people that were finding huge challenges in their lives were being helped by being part of our challenge. This is Guardian Angel Schools in Brisbane. Now, I'm at the base of the Blue Mountains, so they're a long way from us. Miss Kelly, their teacher, taught every single one of her Year 4 students, those are 9-year-olds, boys and girls, how to knit. And she got them all to knit a square. She then joined them together and she donated the blanket on behalf of her year group. Okay, and she's been doing it now for about 5 years. And every single child that comes through her class learns to knit. But she shared with us the reason why she wanted to do it was to demonstrate that you don't have to do big things to make a difference. You can do small things to make a difference. And so by all creating a square, they were able to join together and make a completed blanket on behalf of the school. And she felt that that was a really big lesson for these kids to learn, that everyone can make a difference. So as I said, in 2017, we donated 49 blankets. Last year, we donated 680 blankets, right? Thank you. Over the last 8 years, we have donated 2,812 blankets in total. Let's put that in perspective. That's 2,812 people who have felt the warmth and the kindness of complete and utter strangers. It really is heartwarming. We have had women who have escaped domestic violence who get given a blanket say that these blankets go with them to their new homes. It becomes a sign of hope. There is something that is so lovely about wrapping yourself in a blanket, right? And this kind of sense of security has been so helpful for our communities. So now you're probably sitting there wondering, yeah, but like, what's this got to do with business, right? So I want to share with you, because obviously we have a co-working space. So co-working space, we've got offices and we've got hot desks, and people hire the offices and the hot desks. But we don't have, the people that are getting involved in this, you go, well, they're not going to need a hot desk. They're not going to need an office. You're right. They don't. However, on weekends, we turn into a maker space. So on weekends, we run creative workshops, anything from cookie decorating, mosaicing, resin art. We do a whole lot of different crafts. And these people who are part of our challenge are people who love to do that type of thing. So what we have noticed is an increase not only in the amount of workshops that we now get to run, but also the amount of workshops that are now being sold out. In November, we were actually invited by Panthers World of Entertainment to be part of their Trees of Hope. And with their Trees of Hope, they get 8 different charities to come in. We've now made the Tots Blanket Challenge a charity. They invited us in. 8 charities would decorate their tree. And we obviously covered our tree in granny squares. What else? It just aligns really well with us. Now, what happened was we got notification, and then they said, oh, the tree goes up in 2 weeks. And I was like, damn, I have to now get 500 squares made in 2 weeks, which is a lot of squares. So we just put it out to our community. 200 people put their hands up. We had more than 500 squares come in less than 2 weeks. This tree, this video that we did of us putting up the tree went viral. We got over 2.2 million views just from that one video. But what I want to show you, which is really interesting, are the stats that happen. And this is just with Facebook, right? So I'm taking it from the 1st of November because that is the date that we found out that we were going to have the tree. The tree went up on the 15th of November, and I just did it for that period, just to show you what happened to our social media. Now, we were not only talking about this. Of course, we were running creative Christmas workshops and the likes, but this is the effect that it had. So we went up to 2.3 million views. You can see the spike that happened there. Our content interactions went up by 5.2,000%, which is a fair amount. Got to be happy with that. We had our reach went up by 24.2,000%. Our clicks went up by 83.7%. Our visits went up by 542, and we gained in that time 972 new followers. Pretty good, right? From a business perspective, that's not bad. Now, the effect that that had on our sales meant that we ran our workshops. Now, often when we'll run workshops, we might have workshops that we have to cancel because we haven't met the number of participants. We did not cancel a single workshop. We ran the most amount of workshops we've ever run, 27 workshops. And out of those 27 workshops, 20 of them were sold out. Now, you cannot tell me that what we were doing socially for a cause has not positively affected the business as well. So what I want to do today is go through with you to see how we can maybe do the similar type of thing for you. And the whole idea is for you to market the cause and not always your service and product, because that always feels like it's a sell, sell, sell. And people get tired of the sell. So if you have a really good cause that you're aligned to, that becomes a far better, easier way to connect and communicate with your audience. Clients are far more attracted to your purpose than to your profit. They don't really care about your profit, but if you have a purpose that you are strongly aligned to and you share this with them and you give them something to really be connected with you with, that is where the magic truly lies. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And of course I have to do Business Blueprint, because if we look at Business Blueprint and Hands Across the Water, Dale is able to get 70 people to cycle 500 kilometers in the sweltering Thai heat and pay for the privilege. Not only that, but they will then raise additional funds to reach the goal that has been set, right? It's insane, but it works. I see people here who do it, right? And you know what? They don't just do it once. They do it year after year after year. Don't they, Kimon? So this is the thing, that if you have something that is really strongly aligned, so what works with Business Blueprint are a number of things. Okay, Dale knows his audience. High-achieving business owners who love a goal. They love a challenge. And a lot of them might also have VAs that are in the Philippines. So there's a strong human connection to the cause, right? So when he throws down the gauntlet, he throws down the challenge, there are people who'll go, yes, I'm rising to that because I feel like this is something really cool I can get stuck into, right? And those people who don't want to do that are the ones who'll go, yeah, I'll give money to you so you can do it, right? But it is something that when Dale is talking about hands across the water, the type of engagement that starts to happen is different to when he's talking about his sales, right? And people coming to conferences. The next one I want to give you as an example is a company called Metal. Now, this is a gift hamper company. I see Frances is nodding her head. These guys are amazing because they're a gift hamper company. There are lots of gift hamper companies out there. Yet with them, you go on their website, and what they talk about is the fact that they are educating, they are empowering, they are hiring people who are homeless because of domestic violence, right? That is their cause. So when you have a hamper that is packed by anyone at Metal, it is packed by someone who is going through a really, really difficult time in their life. So that hamper means more than just a gift to your corporate client. That hamper has true meaning to the people who are part of that organization. Now, you as a consumer have a choice. You as a consumer can go to any gift hamper company, right? But imagine if you can go to a gift hamper company that you know makes a difference. You don't get onto their website. Whoop, that's another one. You don't get onto their website and immediately see the top 3 best-selling hampers. You go on there and you start seeing the stories about the people whose lives you'll be able to change when you simply buy a hamper from them. Does that not change your perception as to who you're going to buy a hamper from? It's a hamper, right? But now as a consumer, you have a choice, and they're giving you a really, really good reason. This company is fantastic, GiveWrap. So I don't know if you know this, but gift wrapping is a $31 billion industry. Can you believe that? Okay. Can you believe that? Because now I'll tell you something even crazier. Can you name a single brand that is a gift wrapping brand? Maybe Hallmark, right? But other than that, it's like this no-name multi-billion-dollar industry and no one knows a single brand in it. So GiveWrap has decided, you know what? We can actually make a difference because it's such a huge industry. People give gifts all the time. They wrap these gifts, they hand them over, the wrapping comes off, it all gets scrunched up and thrown in the bin, right? There's so much waste. Whereas these guys have gone, actually, what we're going to do is you get to give twice when you buy GiveWrap. Once by giving the gift to your recipient, and twice because they will donate on your behalf 50% of their profits to a bunch of different charities around the world. Now, you as a consumer have a choice. You can buy any gift wrapping, or you can buy GiveWrap that has a cause behind it, that is aligned to something that you can go, wow, I really love that idea. That is a really good way of being able to give, right? Can you see how these businesses have been very clever in the way they align what they do with how they can create a cause and market the cause, not just the service and the product. Now, I'm not saying to you, stop marketing your service and product. You keep marketing, right? But what you are supposed to do is look at something that is going to make you different to your competitors. Give people a reason to buy from you opposed to buying from your competitor. And if it costs them no more and they can do some real good in the world, why wouldn't they? All right, so we're going to workshop a few things, okay? You don't have to be a big business to make an impact. You can be a small business. We started with 49 blankets, right? It's only 49 blankets, but it's 49 people who were warmer that winter, right? If you think about it that way, you can make a big difference. All right, so what I want you to do is, people got pen, paper, we're going to do a little bit of workshopping right now. And what I want you to look at and think about is, what is your brand's purpose, okay? Now, your mission and your vision is great, right? That is all about you and your business. It's what you are wanting to achieve for your business. But your purpose is a lot bigger. And I'll give you a little bit of an example. So, for example, someone might be, a financial educator. I'm just taking a friend of mine, Melissa Brown. She's a financial educator, and she might want to empower 1 million women to financial freedom of choice, right? But the purpose, the brand purpose, because, and I know this with Melissa because she is a very staunch advocate against domestic violence, is that she is trying to stem the systemic financial abuse that often happens, right? And so you can see that the mission and the vision is part of the business and what you're wanting to do, but the actual purpose is so much bigger than that, right? So I want you to have a think about what your brand purpose could be. Now, obviously, I've given you a very profound example in this case, but it doesn't have to be. Think about your industry, think about what you do and how it could align. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of examples of how you can align with different things. Then, what are your values? What is really important to you? So when you take the Think Outside the Square Blanket Challenge that I've done, my values are very much steeped in creativity and community and connection. They're very, very big things. They're part of my values. I'm part of my community. And this becomes something that you really want to think about to go, well, what are my values? If I were to draw a line in the sand and say, what am I prepared to accept? And what am I prepared not to accept? Like, what would I really, truly stand up for? I worked with a guy, he used to be Business Blueprint. I don't know if any of you remember Brian from Caribay. Anyway, Brian, he had a business that was metalwork. They did formwork, and he created this amazing business where usually their industry, you have the form workers and then you have the manufacturers, and never the twain shall meet. Sorry, this is still going ahead, isn't it? And so he created a business where he manufactures and he installs, right? So it was quite unique. But Brian is Irish, and his dad was a metal worker as well. And he was quite horrified that he's gone into the same industry as his dad, because his dad was highly, highly abusive to him and his family. And he shared with me, and this is public, so I don't, it's not a problem because he's put it into his business. He shared with me that he had to escape with his mum and his 2 siblings because his dad was literally going out to get a gun so he could shoot his mother, and they had to leave their house, right? So they left, and he knows what it is like to go to a women's shelter where they're taking in families to support them during these difficult times. And at the time, he was really upset that he had gone into the same industry as his dad. But as we talk through his branding, he was like, actually, the buck can stop with me. It doesn't have to continue. And so the brand promise for Caribay was, we will raise the bar. Now, obviously, it's got to do with metal, but it's about raising the bar for the standards of the industry, because that particular industry is an industry of abuse. They abuse alcohol, they abuse drugs, and they also abuse their family. And he said, enough. 0 tolerance. Anybody who comes to work with me, if I find out or I hear anything about any form of abuse, That's it. Immediate dismissal. Everybody knows that when they sign their contract, that is going to happen. And he was drawing a line in the sand to say, I will not accept this, right? What happened after that was amazing. His business has absolutely exploded. He started getting in really big contracts, such as John Holland and Lend-Lease now coming to him saying, we want to work with you because you are really putting a line in the sand, and we love that. So we want to be part of that. All right. So have a think about what your values are. All right. The next thing is, do you have any issues close to your heart? All right. So I've just spoken to you about Brian. I also mentioned to you about my friend Melissa. Think about things that are close to your heart. What is really important to you? You know, maybe it's, and I'm going through a couple of things here. So maybe it's who you grew up with. You know, some people might not have grown up in a nuclear family environment. So maybe it's who you grew up with, and maybe it's where you grew up. From my accent, you can hear I'm South African, and I grew up on the border of the world famous Kruger National Park. So when kids in Sydney were off surfing, I was in the bush checking out lion and elephant and rhino and zebra. We had many baboons coming through our property, even a hippo in our dam. So, you know, I grew up in that very wild environment. So for me, environment is a big thing. But because we're so rural, education was such a difficult thing to get to our rural areas. And so what was really important for me was making sure that people in my community that I grew up in were getting educated. So when I had White River Design, my branding studio, every time I onboarded a new client, I would sponsor a child to go through an organization called the Good Work Foundation, and I'd pay for that child for a year, right? And the reason why this was so important is because it's absolutely insane. In South Africa, children go to school in the rural areas, and up until the age of 10, they are taught in their native tongue, right? And to keep in mind, we have 11 official languages in South Africa. So there are a lot of different languages that children are getting taught, right? But so up until that age group, they are taught in their native tongue. And then Year 4 starts, and they now suddenly have to be taught in English. Just let that sink in. That is like saying to all Australians, right, you will learn, your children will learn in English, and then when they reach Year 4, we're going to teach them all in Italian. Everything will be in Italian. Like it's crazy, right? And so these kids now they know the numbers for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in their native tongue, but now they have to learn the words for the new language. And so this organization takes these kids in and teaches them how to learn English and maths using English words. They have access to computers and Lego. I mean, we think Lego is just, irritating when you stand on it. But, for these kids, they didn't have access to Lego. So for me, that was really, really important for me to be part of. So think about how you grew up, where you grew up, what you had access to, when you may have needed any help. Right? That's another big thing, and how you grew up. So these questions, just think about these and go, okay, is there anything there that will trigger something for you to go, oh, yeah, I remember a time which was really difficult, and this is where I got help. And that would be amazing, because if there was more help like that, that's something that I could really support. The next one is you need to know your audience. You need to know your audience really well. I gave you the example about Dale with Hands Across the Water. He knows his audience. He knows that there are people who are going to put their hands up and say, hell yeah, I'm in, right? with the Creative Fringe and people part of our challenge, we know our audience. We know the people that want to get involved. Recently, I don't know, I know Marissa was talking about Great Northern beer. Has anyone heard the controversy about Great Northern? No? Okay, so I'll tell you about it, all the drama. What happened is Great Northern was like, yeah, we're Great Northern beer. We love, all our drinkers love the great outdoors. So what we're going to do is we're going to align with a really good cause. And the good cause is that we are going to raise funds to then purchase land to give back to the wildlife environment or whatever. Okay? Oh my God, no, all hell broke loose. You know why? Because these people who love this beer love to camp, fish, hike, shoot, right? But they're not allowed to do that in the national parks. So here, Great Northern has gone, we're going to buy up all this land and it's going to be great for conservation. And all their drinkers are like, no, well, you've just taken away my whole weekend, right? You need to know who your audience is, because even though it's a great cause, what they're trying to do is fantastic, right? However, they didn't really figure out who their audience is. They didn't figure out who they are properly. So know who your audience is. The next thing, which is so important, is how do you want to make people feel? Now, obviously, when you're looking at Dale's situation, he is very much trying to make people feel really good about achieving a goal, doing really good work, right? This becomes super important when you're trying to connect and engage with your audience. Our audience, with the blankets, they want to feel like they have purpose. They want to feel like they are valued. And by doing that and being able to help other people. Now, I always like to go back to your brand personality. And a lot of you have done my brand personalities test. But if you understand what your brand personality is, that will give you a little insight into how you want to make people feel, because that is around your personality. If you are an entertainer personality, you are going to make people feel happy. You're going to make them laugh. You're going to make them feel really good about themselves. However, if you are a caregiver, you're going to make people feel supported and connected, right? So what I have here is a whole list of different areas that you might look at and go, okay, I feel like I'm aligned with this or that. Right? These will give you a few ideas. Maybe it is environment, maybe it's sustainability, maybe it's fair trade, animal welfare. There are so many different things. I'll leave this one up for a little while because I've got another whole slide of ideas. So have a think about these and go, do any of these fit with you? I know mental health is a big thing for people these days. So if you can tap into that. When I've been doing a little bit of work with I don't know if you've heard of Big School Walk. We've got Brendan and Ryan in the room here who are part of that. And these guys, not only do they have people that work in the Philippines, but they've looked at it and gone, okay, there are people, yes, who are prepared to put their hand up and do 500 kilometers, right? But there are other people who still want to do something and they can't really manage the 500 kilometers. So maybe they can manage a 5, 10, 20 kilometer walk. And this will help with, their health. And Brendan has a health fitness business. So it aligns really well with the ethos of the brand to then be able to talk about it to the customers to say, this is what we're doing. All right. A couple more things. Climate actions, ethical sourcing. There are so many different causes that you might want to be part of. So have a think about this, because even if we take something as simple as homelessness, I mean, you know, most of us in the room, I am assuming, are lucky enough to have a roof over our heads, right? But there are also people in this room who are in the property industry, right? And if you're in the property industry, being aligned with something like homelessness is actually a really good alignment to say, well, you know what, I might be a developer and I'm building houses for people, or I'm a real estate agent and I'm selling houses for people. But at the same time, how can I help people who are completely homeless? So think about how you can make a difference by aligning your business with a cause that can truly make a difference to the lives of people around you. The next thing I want you to think about is, what resources do you have on hand? Like, is this something that you can do in-house? Is this something that you need to go to your community with? I mean, with our squares, we needed to go to the community. There was no way we were going to be able to do that internally. So have a think about what you're able to do internally, externally. Do you need to have partners? So with us, we have partners who get the blankets to the right people, right? So we have to have that kind of partnership relationship. An accounting firm that I know of, they plant a tree for every tax return they do, right? And so their whole thing is, thank you for helping our business grow. And then every month they're only about 6 of them. They will get all the little saplings and they go to these different areas and they plant trees, right? And sometimes they're only planting 10 trees and other times they're planting, heaps of trees. But they are able to do that internally, right? They don't need anybody externally to be able to do that. So think about, how are you able to actually execute this? Because if you get something that is so grand that you're not able to actually execute it, it's useless. There's no point in doing it, right? Then what is your level of commitment? So what I mean by this is, so with our blanket challenge, we run it from the 1st of April to the 31st of July. It's 4 months, it's intense. We have hundreds of people that we're having to deal with. There's no way we can possibly do it all year round. And it's also the winter months. It's pretty cold then, so it makes sense for us to do it then. But you might do something where it's on a regular basis, that you might do something, get involved, soup kitchens, whatever it is, right? But have an understanding of how regular that's going to be. So, for example, with my book, Brand Magic, How to Build a Brand with Personality. I just happen to have one. Thanks, Luke. So with my book, every copy that we sell, I donate $2 back to the Good Work Foundation. So what we do with that is, I can't do that every day because I don't have sales every day. And I might not even have sales every week. But so every quarter, what we do is we look and we see what the sales are, and then we will donate every quarter. So understanding what's your level of commitment? How often are you going to be doing this? How involved are you going to get? How involved is your team going to be in all of this? And this is a really good thing about understanding how you can bring your team on the journey to do some good, because simply having a job is having a job. Having a purpose when you have a job means that you have a far better connection with your team than simply paying them a salary every fortnight. So have a think about how you get them on board as well. Now, marketing is only one piece of the puzzle. What you have to do is you need to report back on it. There needs to be transparency. There needs to be a level of understanding from your customer that what you have said you're going to do, you have delivered on. It cannot be lip service. Anybody seen apple cider vinegar? Yeah. Right? Okay. That scenario with apple cider vinegar with Belle Gibson, who decided to tell the entire world that she had brain cancer and she was curing her brain cancer by eating these healthy foods that she then happened to make an app for and create a recipe book for. When it was found out that this was all bogus, trust falls down. No one will ever trust her again. I don't care what kind of industry she tries to go into. This is the thing, that if you decide that you're going to do some form of cause-based marketing, you need to make sure that you are delivering on it and you are reporting back. You need to let people know. So with our challenge, what we do is, so it's crazy. Everyone gets so involved and they all want to know. We've set a goal of 750 blankets. I'm kind of freaking out, to be honest. But what happens is they want us to report every week, like, how many blankets have we got? How many do we have to go, before we reaching our goal? And so what it does is it keeps everyone on board. It keeps them motivated. It keeps them engaged. And so if you have a way of being able to show this is our tally, this is what we're working towards, it keeps people active, involved, and it keeps them connected with your brand. So make sure that whatever you're doing, you are reporting back on it, because that's a hugely important part of this. If you're not reporting back on it, people are going to start thinking, oh, I don't know, is it real? Like, are they actually doing what they say they're doing? And if you're doing something so grand and huge, if you're not delivering on that, it's going to be a disaster. Did anyone, I don't even know his name because he's not that important in my life. But anyway, this is the guy who bought up the entire block, right? I don't know. Adrian Patelli, that's the man. So he bought the entire block, and they're like 8 different houses. And he said, everyone buy a raffle ticket and someone's going to win the house, right? And this is the date that we're drawing it on. He didn't draw it that day. Something went wrong with all the technology or whatever, and he didn't draw it. And people started getting really irate, like really, really cranky. Hang on, but I bought tickets, and what's going on here? And he's going, no, it's just the technology, guys. I'm going to do it. But by that stage, so much trust has been lost by that particular point in time. So you've got to be really, really careful about how you're going to report back on these things. So I'm going to encourage you to embrace the cause and to make a difference out there, because every little bit that you do can help somebody. And be brave enough to be different. Be brave enough to step into the space. And I know people say, but yeah, that could be my profit. I tell you what, the reward that you get from doing something that really has purpose and meaning and value is 10 times more than if you did nothing at all. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. And if anyone would like to find out how to work with me, just scan the QR code. There are a bunch of different ways. Thanks, guys. Does anyone have any questions? Luke has got a mic, so if there are any questions, now's the time to ask if you have them.
Wow, look at that. You educated them all, not a single question, really?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Here we go.
Sorry, it's a very simple question. Just contact information for your program so that I can share that. I think it'd be great to share that on social because it's a great initiative, and congratulations on doing that.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank
amazing.
you. The Creative Fringe, I will send that out to Luke or somebody, and we can put it up at the end of this when it goes up. Yeah, it's called the Tots Blanket Challenge, so it's part of the Creative Fringe. So the creativefringe.com.au.
Thanks, Debbie. Always great content and lots of information. If you don't mind, I'm just going to put it out there for anyone who would like to talk about partnering with a charity or organisation that might like to support those children in education in the Philippines, a big school walk. I won't take any more time now, but Debbie's also helping us out on our board as an advisor. So if anyone wants to gain some marketing collateral and get some legs for their business, we'd love to chat and impact those young kids.
So in this case, if you're wanting to do education, anything with children, anything with health, it fits in all those categories so that you can tick a bunch of boxes there. Yeah.
Seeing as we're doing paid political announcements, we are also looking for partners. We do a daily welfare check for elderly people that live at home alone, and it might be something that is congruent or in keeping with a business that you have that you might like to share with your clients, I guess, for want of a better word. So, as I said, thank you.
Fantastic. And look, that's something else. You know, you might actually know of a business who you can partner with. So, for example, I know Ryan has got on board with Brendan to go, hey, we want to get this together and do it as a whole team effort. There are a bunch of you that are doing it. To say, you know what, if one person was doing it, it's really hard work, but if we get a group of us together, it's going to be so much easier. So have a think about, you know, how you can partner with other businesses. And you got something?
Oh. Do you have a training video on how to knit a square?
No,
I'd love to do it.
YouTube is great.
I might end up with a triangle.
You know, can I just say, if you end up with a triangle, you're doing really well because it's very hard to do. But what I might do is I might, in our Facebook group, I'll put up some details about the Creative Fringe and this particular challenge that we're doing. So if anyone is interested, or maybe you've got someone in your life who you just think this would be fantastic for them. We actually won the Trees of Hope. So with the $4,000, because we've got volunteers from all across Australia, we're actually using that money that if they need to post anything to us, that will go to postal relief so that they don't have to pay for anything like that. So we have volunteers all over the country now. So.
Thank you, Debbie. One more?
I really love this. Thank you. It sounds like when you created this, it was for the people that would benefit from the blankets, and then all by default, all these other people really benefit, the people that were helping. Are you suggesting that maybe we get started if we have an idea and then let's just sort of see what comes? Or do you think, like in Dale's sense, he was thinking about the people that participate? Should we try and wear two hats when we create something? How do you suggest we tackle it?
Look, and that's a really good point. You know, Steve Jobs famously said that you can only join the dots after they've been created, right? And so for us, we thought we were doing the right thing by the people who are getting the blankets. In the end, we realized that there's actually a gamut of people we're helping along the way. The way I would be looking at it is to go find out how you ultimately want to make people feel. What is the end result that you want? Because there might not be this happy utopia along the way. So understanding who that audience is. You know, when Dale started Hands Across the Water, he wouldn't have had 70 people there. It has grown, it has snowballed. People have then got on board. I think they've now raised 2.6 million.
Almost 3 million after the last ride, yeah.
Yeah, which is it's massive. But that first ride, 11, right? And so so what you will find is as you have whatever cause you are getting behind, that other things will come out from it. It's not something that happens by plan. Sometimes it happens organically. And that's actually where I think a lot of the magic happens. So I would focus on the end result. For us, we just wanted to get blankets to people in need. That's what we wanted. This happy accident happened to be that people along the way were getting so much out of it.